I'm James from Bike Lock Wiki, and today we're checking out the Seatylock Viking, Seatylock's highest security chain lock. So I've been using the Seatylock Viking for the past 2 weeks to lock my bike. I've really enjoyed using it, but it does have a few small setbacks, which I'll cover throughout this review. We'll start by looking at how practical the Seatylock Viking is to use, and then later on in the video, we'll take this outside and find out how secure it really is by testing it against a range of tools. Now, to start with, when considering a new bicycle chain lock, you'll want to consider its weight. And the Viking comes in at 2.84 kilos, which is relatively heavy for a bike lock. However, it's important to remember that this is the Viking 110, which means it's 110 centimeters long and therefore offers a larger number of locking options for your bike than a smaller, more lightweight lock such as the Seatylock Mason. If 110 centimeters and 2.8 kilos sounds a bit too bulky for you, there are several other sizes of the Viking available. There's a 90 centimeter and a 140 centimeter for those who need extra locking room or a lighter weight option. Additionally, Seatylock also recently released the Viking Lite, which is a lighter, smaller version of the chain, which I'll be reviewing separately in another video. Now, at 2.8 kilos, you might be wondering how you're going to carry the Viking with you while cycling. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to carry it on longer bicycle journeys. However, if you're commuting by bike to the same destination every day, you'd be smart to leave this locked up at your destination, which will provide you with quick and easy access to a high security bike lock. One of the features that I did enjoy with the chain was its neoprene sleeve. This prevents the chain from scratching your bike, but also keeps the chain relatively clean and dry throughout its use. Additionally, the neoprene sleeve prevents the chain from rattling and clinking while securing your bike. However, one feature of the sheath that I didn't enjoy was that it came loose after just a few days of usage. Seatylock have used small metal wires to secure the sheath in place, which, as you can see, hasn't worked very well because after a few weeks of use, it's already revealing the chain underneath. It's not a massive problem, but it's definitely a feature that can be improved upon moving forwards. Either end of the Viking is coated in a soft silicone casing, which prevents the lock and your bike from any knocks and drops which could cause scratches or otherwise mechanical issues. The silicone is high quality and very durable, and I prefer its performance and appearance compared to locks which use a plastic outer shell. On the underside of the Viking, there's an automatic keyhole cover which prevents dirt and debris from entering the lock, but also ensures that the internal locking mechanism is smooth and easy to operate. Just to quickly interrupt, if you find bicycle security content helpful and value the security of your bicycle, it would be great if you could like this video and subscribe to Bike Lock Wiki. Now, one feature of the Seatylock Viking which I have really enjoyed is its internal locking magnet, which you can see just inside the locking mechanism here. This pulls both ends of the chain together, allowing you to quickly secure your bike, which greatly increases the usability of the Viking. Just before we get into the destruction testing, as you've already seen, the Viking was awarded the Sold Secure Gold rating, which means it's capable of securing your bike in higher risk areas where thieves are operating. Sold Secure Gold also tends to be the minimum security rating that insurers ask for when covering high value bikes. Now, Seatylock claimed that the Viking's links are 10mm thick, but I actually found them to be closer to 9.6mm after taking several measurements. This isn't a huge difference, but it's something that I wanted to make note of. First up, we have hammer testing, and as I've already talked about, the Viking uses a 3.5mm housing, which was hard to damage. Its silicone cover provided good cushioning and prevented damage until it was removed. Once the cover was removed, after several heavy strikes, the mechanism seized up but didn't open and held strong. Next, we had the hacksaw testing, and to be honest, hacksaws are hardly used to steal bikes anymore, as they take more skill to use than an angle grinder and are considerably slower to cut with. But I wanted to see how the Viking's links would perform anyway, so I put it to the test. To be honest, the hacksaw that I used was relatively cheap, and as you can see, it was totally useless and hardly made a scratch on the Viking's links. My hacksaw blade was blunting pretty quickly against the links, so I gave up with this method, and I'll make sure to get hold of some higher quality hacksaw blades for my next lock review. Moving on to bolt cutter testing, I first used my 18-inch bolt cutters, which were completely unable to grip the links of the Viking chain and actually obtained a small amount of damage from the links at the front of the blades. Now, my 36-inch bolt cutters engulfed the links of the Viking very easily, but I was surprised at the resistance the links showed and had to fight to clamp down on the chain. Despite what you see in the video, the Viking's links fought off my 36-inch bolt cutters and actually ended up deforming and breaking their jaws. Upon inspection, the Viking's chain links had suffered minimal damage, which was a surprise to me. Despite being one of the biggest bolt cutter sizes available, my bolt cutters were clearly weaker than the Viking, so moving forwards for future reviews, I'll also invest in a stronger pair of bolt cutters. Now, my fourth and final test is the angle grinder, and probably the test you're all here to see. But before we do get into this, for all of the YouTube police out there, yes, I was wearing PPE, and no, please don't attempt to replicate anything you see in this video at home. I made sure to time the angle grinder test so that I could use the data to compare the performance of the Viking to other locks I review in the future, so stay tuned for those videos. All in all, the Viking took a total of 23.98 seconds to cut through. However, if a thief attempted to cut a chain lock on the street, it would be much more difficult than what you see here. The chain here is clamped securely in place, whereas a chain used to lock a bike on the street would flex and make it very challenging to make a clean cut. With the destruction testing of the Viking complete, the final aspect of security that I wanted to cover is the locking mechanism that this lock uses. As covered earlier in the video, the Viking utilizes a slider cylinder and slider keys, which are found on automobiles and other high-value items. Now, Seatylock uses the same locking mechanism throughout its entire product range, and Bosnian Bill, the famous lockpicking YouTuber, found it difficult to pick and gave it his praise. Picking clearly isn't a reliable method of attack against the Viking for your average thief. It's unlikely they'll have the tools, let alone the skills, to pick this lock. Now, apart from how secure a lock is and how practical it is to use, the other factor you'll want to consider when buying any bike lock is how much it costs. And the Seatylock Viking 110 comes in at around $100 on the Seatylock website. This does sit the Viking in the upper end of the price range compared to similar chain locks, but the practical features and security this chain offers make the pricing a bit more understandable. Now, one of the factors that I'll be considering more and more when reviewing bike locks is the sustainability of a manufacturer. I spoke with Michael Schenkerman, who's the CEO of Seatylock, and asked him what Seatylock had been doing to decrease their environmental impact. Michael let me know that Seatylock were working to remove any plastic from their packaging, which is definitely a step in the right direction, but I do think they could be doing more. The Viking uses 3 slider keys which can be replaced using the code on the back of the card, which is supplied with the lock. In addition, the lock is supplied with a 3-year guarantee, which will keep the lock free of any mechanical defects whilst in use. To summarise this review, I would use the Viking to secure my bike. As we covered, it's a sold secure gold rated chain lock that provides a good level of security, and as we saw today, it even broke my 36-inch bolt cutters, which are way bigger than what thieves would normally carry on the street. If I was locking a high value bike with the Viking, I'd feel inclined to use a second lock alongside this chain. This would discourage thieves, and as selfish as it sounds, it would move them on to an easier target. Now, as promised earlier in the video, I have a valuable bicycle security tip for you. When securing your bike, make sure you keep your lock as high away from the ground as possible. When I'm out and about, I tend to use multi-story bike parks if they're an option, as they greatly increase the time and effort required for a thief to remove any lock from your bike. As we covered earlier, the Viking retails at a fairly competitive price to similar locks. There are cheaper ones out there, but ultimately you pay for the quality of the product you receive. If you've decided the Viking isn't the lock for you, please feel free to check out some of my other reviews on this channel, or some of the bicycle security content on the Bike Lock Wiki website. Finally, I really hope you found this video helpful. If you did, it would help me out if you could hit the like button down below, and make sure to subscribe to Bike Lock Wiki for the latest bicycle security news. Thanks again for watching, and as always, lock it or lose it.